Hello, my name is Emily Reniger, and welcome back to another installment of Feature Friday, a segment dedicated to showcasing different student athletes, coaches, and personnel in the Rising Stars Football Academy family. Now, today we have Melvin Thomas. Coach Mel played Division I college football at the University of Colorado and was a draft pick of the Philadelphia Eagles in the 90s. He was on the William Allen coaching staff for 3 years as a defensive coordinator before taking charge of the program as the head coach in early 2021. His football knowledge and off-the-field experiences makes him a great resource for our listeners. We appreciate the opportunity to speak with him today. So thanks for being here, Mel. How's it going?
It's fine. How are you?
Appreciate you doing this for us. So let's dive right in here. Honestly, just want to get to know you a little bit and your sports background. So can you talk about, what you played growing up and what you really focused on in high school?
Of course, I was a three-sport athlete, which included football, basketball, and some track events. I began to focus primarily on football. I think it was my junior year. I had a lot of success, and it eventually led to me being able to play D1 at the University of Colorado. I had a pretty good career and was able to enter into the NFL draft in 98 and be drafted by Philadelphia Eagles, and didn't have a long career. Injuries cut my career short, but now I'm just a pastor in the Allentown area. So the head football coach, William Allen. So I'm very pleased of what I'm doing now. Just trying to give back to the youth any way I can. So that's pretty much the basics about what's going on with me.
And you mentioned especially about like running track in high school too. Yeah. A lot of the student athletes that we work with, they're not just, one sport athletes, they're 2-3 sport athletes. So how do those other sports kind of help what you do on the football field as well with, your hand-eye coordination, your speed, obviously?
I think basketball helped more than anything else, just with explosion, being able to use your body in different ways, the jumping aspect of losing the body, the lateral movements, running track. I did some events, mostly field events, but we did have what they call was a big man relay down in Louisiana. We won every year because we had athletes, but it's important for kids to know that being a multi-sport athlete prepares you for not only for athletics, but it prepares you for life, right? So you get involved in things that you're able to kind of carve out your own path. And multi-sport athletes are normally successful because they find a way to dedicate themselves to sports in and out of season. Also, these athletes have the most success in the quote-unquote real world when they're adults and they have to provide for their families simply because they understand the grind. They have this no-quit attitude. And so I always encourage my kids to become multi-sport athletes.
You played high school football and other sports there, and then really kind of focused, more on your football career, kind of your junior, senior year, and then went on to play at the University of Colorado. So can you speak a little about that recruitment process and what about Colorado really stood out to you?
I love that question because recruiting when I was in high school, it was totally different than recruiting now. And so, being recruited in high school, my experience was a good experience because I had multiple D1 offers and multiple, D2 offers. But I found myself looking to leave New Orleans and wanted to get in a place where I can grow and kind of be on my own, knowing that it'll be some struggles at times. And that place was Colorado. And while at Colorado, I kind of grew up and came into my own, learned how to be selfish. And what I mean by selfish is that we need athletes to be selfish in a way that they began to, at an early age, surround themselves with like-minded people, to surround themselves with a core group of people that can catapult them to their goals. I find that a lot of athletes are not selfish in their way. I understand friend groups, but I ask my athletes, you got to look at people that can help you get to where you see yourself in 5 years. Normally, those people are people that will push you, the kind of people that expect more from you. And certainly at the University of Colorado, I was able to surround myself with a plethora of teammates and also people from the university that would push me to different levels. So I became selfish in a way that I wanted to surround myself with people that would help me grow, not only as a football player, but as a young man.
And you're kind of touching on this next question here too, especially with, surrounding yourself with the best people and kind of focusing more on that academic aspect to your football career as well. Like you're not just there to play football, you're also there to get your degree. So can you talk about like the resources that Colorado provided you with in the classroom help and, tutors on the side that really made you focus on your academics as well as your football playing career?
The rule was that if you was able to maintain a certain GPA, the GPA was a 3.5, that once you hit a 3.5, there was no more tutoring. After my first semester of college, I hated going to tutoring. I thought it was a waste of time simply because, not that I didn't need it, it's because I could personally take the time to study and not have somebody make me study. I always wanted to be the one to achieve things on my own. I worked towards the goal of getting my GPA high enough to not need tutoring. It doesn't mean that I didn't utilize tutoring when things were due and I didn't understand things, but the most important thing about tutoring is that a lot of our young athletes don't take advantage of it. For whatever reason, they don't see the value in it. But I'm here to tell you, tutoring has great value, especially to athletes. One, there is a limited amount of time when you're a college athlete for studying. And so just having a time frame that's set aside for you to focus on study is very, very important to the success of athletes. Second reason is this: not only is there a set amount of time, but it's an environment where only learning takes place. It's about business and there's no nonsense. So for that hour and a half, 2 hours, you're laser focused on what has to be done. It helped me my first semester, I want to be honest with you, but I just found a way to invest enough that I wouldn't have to go back to campus to get tutoring. I just stay in my dorm room and work on it myself.
And what did you get your degree in, and how are you utilizing that now?
Okay, so I have a degree in Bachelor's of Arts in sociology, focused on criminology, and one in ethnic studies. I'm a pastor, I'm a full-time pastor, and I'm currently in studies to become an ordained minister in American Baptist Church. So I am still doing coursework even today. I also did coursework in education for my master's curriculum. And so I believe in education. I believe in continuing to improve yourself. I tell kids this: education is important, and it certainly is important. I go back to that selfish part. When you figure out what and who you want to be, you have to be laser focused to accomplish that. And for some kids, it's not playing at a D1 or D2 school. It's just becoming a better person. But if you find yourself in a situation where there's a college that's going to offer you a scholarship or some money to play for their school, and if you're going to take advantage of that opportunity, take advantage of the education that you're going to receive also. It's cliche when people say, well, they can't take it from you. No, they can't, because I earned it. And it's important for young men to know that when you earn something, it means more than when anybody give things to you. For me, I wanted to earn it. I didn't want to go to University of Colorado and not accomplish a goal and get 2 degrees. I didn't want to go there and just go to NFL and have to return back to get education. I wanted to do the work then and get it done.
And you just mentioned it too, like you did have the opportunity to join the NFL. You got drafted by the Eagles, a team that Ron is certainly familiar with. So
Yes.
can you kind of talk about, preparing for that draft and what your
Uh,
training really looked like leading up to it?
After my senior season, of course, I got invited to play in the East West Shrine game and the Senior Bowl. I opted to play in the Senior Bowl. The training for the combine, it was the most grueling process I've been through, even more than tour days and camps. For some reason, in the NFL, you're drafted based on your measurables, based on your performance and, long jump, vertical, bench, 40-yard dash, 5-10-5 shuttle. And this is something that they used as a rating, and also they use your game film. The reason why it's important, I believe, is that if you look at it, NFL teams want to know that you have prepared, you have taken things seriously enough to train to do your very best in these tests. Some guys are better than others. Some guys are more athletic than others. But at the end of the day, I have to say this to you: what really matters is the product that you put on the field. In the discussion, I was fortunate to have had a good product on the field and to play at a high level in college that led me to get drafted, even though while at the combine, it was discovered that I had a serious knee injury. Despite that, just to still hear my name called and receive that phone call and fly out to Philly. So I'm happy about that.
So I am curious though, you end your playing career, but you do start a career in coaching. So
Yeah.
how did you get involved with that? How did you come to William Allen then?
After my career was over in Philadelphia, I moved to the Lehigh Valley. I had to find a job, and one of the jobs I found was to become a teacher at William Allen. I began to coach and fell in love with coaching. And so now I find myself giving back as much as I can, offering opportunities for these young men to glean from my experience, to be able to teach them things that they wouldn't have learned otherwise. And so I'm having a joy coaching these kids because they're special young men. By the way, these athletes over the past 2 years are some of the most resilient athletes in the history of this world, because they had to deal with a lot of things and still put on the best performance they can. But they're to be commended, these young men and women, for what they've done over the last 2 years.
It has been a pretty, like you said, kind of crazy 2 years. And
Yeah.
that's definitely something that we're trying to move past it, right? Trying to do this safely again and have these camps and combines because sports are such an important outlet, especially for these kids in their communities. And it keeps them out of so much trouble. So, I'm curious. I know you work with a lot of your kids pretty closely here. How do you think that their off the field behavior really impacts their opportunities to play at that next level? I'm sure you have a couple kids who are maybe looking to play, D1, 2, 3 football or other sports here, but it isn't 100% about what they do on the field or on their court. It's about, who they are as people, like you said. So how do you think that behavior, whether it be, in the classroom, in their community, on social media, how do you think that plays a factor into the recruitment process?
That is an absolute great question because I don't think the young men understand this, but I want to be very, very clear. They should know this one point. What you do off the field will impact your career the most, right? And so, a lot of young men, of course, they're going to be kids. They're going to be young men, teenagers, but they have to have the knowledge by which they understand that just one poor decision can affect the goals for the rest of their lives. And I try to instill the idea in my athletes that you have to be selfish and you have to work to win the day. And win the day is our motto, that every day you wake up, you have an opportunity to get better. And if you get better every single day, you just become a better version of yourself. As far as the classroom, I'm going to be totally honest with you. I wish more athletes would understand that what you do in the classroom would dictate how people view you. College recruiters, they look at the holistic athlete. And if you are failing in the classroom, more than likely, they're going to have issues with you, on the college campus or in their program. And they don't want to deal with that. Right? Think about it. Why would a college coach extend a scholarship to this guy who's struggling in the classroom, who may be a little bit better than the guy who's doing well? Why would they want to even think about the guy who's struggling, don't attend school or misses school and not doing the right thing? Because college athletics is not a babysitting service, right? And his kids need to understand that. They don't babysit you. Let's say you go D2, you have D2 talent, and there's a lot of guys on these rosters, There's rosters in D2, D3 schools at 105, 110 guys with similar talent that you have, and they don't want to babysit you. They don't want to have to worry about you in the classroom. So what you do in high school, it will impact you. And these kids find out later on in life. And they oftentimes find out on a graduation date, right? So I always say when you graduate, it's a day where you kind of mature and become a real person, because at that moment you look back and there's no one asking you to turn this paper in or asking you to get the class. Them days are over with. And so I ask kids to simply take advantage of it, remind them how important their circle is. The circle is probably the most important aspect of their high school career, and being selfish in a good way.
You hit on a lot of the things that Ron does, and that's obviously why he enjoys working with you so much. So how did you and Ron first get connected, and how did you kind of get involved with Rising Stars Football Academy?
It was coming out of the first year of the pandemic. Ron had wanted to bring Rising Star Academy to the Lehigh Valley. And I was, the coach of William Allen, and he wanted to use our venue for the combine. Met him a few times in the meetings to discuss the logistics, and we just kind of clicked. We both have similar stories. We both share in the fact that we are forever part of a fraternity of men that know what it feels like to be at the top, a professional in your sport, and know the grind that it takes. And so that commonality led us to just talk on a different level, not necessarily about football, but about life. And so in this conversations about life, I discovered that his vision, his drive is similar to my vision and my drive. If you take all of the fluff out of sports, it all boils down to the kid, right? The athlete. And if you focus on the athlete, you're not focused on athletes so they'll be able to go play football or basketball. Is that one day you'll be able to see them when they're grown and be able to smile and know that they have done the right things and they're having success in their lives. And so I've kind of attached myself to that aspect of Rising Star, and I like working with them. I like the energy. Certainly, I have a lot of fun coaching. I've gotten to know you. It's a good atmosphere. I think he's doing it for the right reason. The kids are excited, and it makes sense for him to bring it to different locations around the state of Pennsylvania to give kids opportunities to showcase their talents, and sometimes for kids who would never get opportunity otherwise. And also invite college coaches to come and see this kid that they probably wouldn't see anyway. So I think what he's doing is absolutely a wonderful thing. And then the most important part is not necessarily the testing or the competitiveness of it. It's just the talks afterwards, right? They work hard, but then at the end of the day, they hear stories and testimonies from men who have been in their shoes and know what it takes, talk in a way that's encouraging to the kids. I'm happy to help out any way I can.
And we certainly appreciate it. So I do have one last question for you. So
Good.
we always like to end
Okay.
these on a high note here, a good positive note. So what is one piece of advice that you would like to share with any junior high or high school football player?
Start being selfish. Don't look at being selfish as something that's bad. Be selfish about wanting to accomplish your goals and surround yourself with people who will help you get there. Begin at an early age, because if you do it at an early age, it becomes easier for you to tell people no and to turn away from foolishness. We have too many athletes who have talent to be able to go to the next level and play and provide the opportunity to get a good education, who fall by the wayside because they're not selfish. I wish they can look back and say to themselves, if I had been. And so I don't want guys to have to do that, not to have to say, if I had done A, B, or C. Just do it and be selfish and be authentic about what you want and let it be known what you want and what you expect, and allow people the opportunity to meet that expectation. But if they don't, you don't need them around you. Make sure people around you have value. They don't have any value, get rid of them.
I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today.
Absolutely.
And I hope a lot of our viewers attend some of our camps and combines and meet people like you and coaches like you. And I just really appreciate your time, and thanks again.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.